Good morning, Internet. I want to dive right into something that absolutely blew my mind when I first came across it, because this feels like one of those rare moments where you realize the industry you thought you knew inside and out just took a massive leap forward. For years, whenever we talk about handgun ammo, the conversation usually circles back to the same predictable choices: heavy, slow 45 ACP reliable 9mm, or maybe the 40 Smith& Wesson for those who want something in between. The differences are often about brand preference or hollow point versus ball ammo, but the underlying technology has stayed essentially the same for decades. Then I held a cartridge in my hand that felt so ridiculously light I thought the box was empty, and that was the start of this whole story. Traditionally, bullets are simple. Lead core wrapped in copper, maybe a polymer mix for specialized rounds, always the same formula. But this new design tears up the old rulebook. Inside that copper jacket isn't lead at all. It's a synthetic non-Newtonian fluid. The same principle you've seen in classrooms with cornstarch and water, soft when touched, slowly hard as a rock under sudden impact. At low speeds, it moves like liquid, but at firing speed, it stiffens, instantly delivering the punch of a solid. That single change rewrites how the cartridge behaves. Lead is dense and heavy, which is why a standard 45 ACP round tips the scales at about 230 grains. With the synthetic core, you're holding a projectile that weighs just 78 grains. It feels unreal in your hand, and that massive reduction in weight translates directly into velocity. Instead of plodding along at around 950 feet per second, these new rounds clock in near 1,800 feet per second, all while using a normal powder charge. There's no plus P pressure, no risk of beating your gun to pieces, just raw speed from clever physics. What blows me away is that you can drop one of these rounds into the same magazine chamber in the same pistol, and yet it feels like you're firing a different class of weapon. Lighter bullets mean softer recoil. Instead of that heavy push 45 shooters know so well, the impulse is smooth and quick, letting the sights come back on target faster. Follow-up shots are sharper, groups get tighter, and the overall shooting experience feels transformed. Some shooters compare it to running a competition-tuned setup without changing a single part on the gun. Performance is only part of the story. There's also the environmental factor. Across the U.S., more states are restricting lead ammunition, especially in areas where contamination of soil and water is a real concern. Missouri, for example, has stretches of land where lead is not allowed at all. For hunters and shooters, finding non-lead options can be frustrating and expensive. This new design solves that problem naturally. With no lead in the core, compliance comes built-in, and shooters don't need to sacrifice performance to meet regulations. The best part is that it doesn't break the bank. You'd think cutting-edge ammo like this would cost double or triple, but the difference is tiny, about $1 more per box of 50 compared to common practice loads. Defensive boxes also run just about $1 higher than mainstream options like hollow points. When you stack that against the benefits: higher speed, less recoil, lead-free design, the price feels more than fair. This isn't a one-off experiment either. The company Simex has developed what they call SubMass technology, which reduces bullet weight by as much as 80 to 90% while maintaining penetration and energy. Their lineup includes 9mm 40 Smith & Wesson and 45 ACP, showing this concept works across popular calibers. Instead of a niche gimmick, it's shaping up as a genuine shift in how ammunition might evolve. Think about it: a round that looks ordinary, loads ordinary, but behaves like nothing you've shot before. That sensation of lifting a cartridge that feels like it's missing its core only to see it leave the barrel at blistering speed is surreal. And the physics behind it isn't just clever, it's practical. A fluid that stiffens on impact ensures reliable transfer of energy while keeping weight low, recoil soft, and regulations satisfied. It's one of those innovations that makes you rethink what's possible in an industry that rarely changes overnight. What really seals the deal for me is hearing what happens when people actually take these rounds out and put them through real-world drills. Over and over, shooters report the same thing: less recoil, faster follow-ups, and a noticeable tightening of their shot groups. It isn't subtle. People who have been shooting for decades suddenly feel like they gained an edge, like the gun is working with them instead of against them. That kind of reaction isn't just hype, it's confirmation that the science translates into practical performance. One story stands out to me. A shooter who normally lags a little behind his training partner picked up a box of these rounds just to try them out. On qualification day, he outshot his buddy for the first time. He wasn't suddenly a different marksman, but the lighter recoil gave him quicker recovery between shots, and that was enough to tighten his accuracy. That's the kind of result that sticks with you because it shows the ammo doesn't just change ballistics on paper, it changes outcomes on the range. And there's another layer. Reduced recoil isn't just about faster times or tighter groups, it's about accessibility. New shooters often struggle with the intimidating kick of a handgun, especially in larger calibers. Handing them something that feels lighter, softer, and more manageable can be the difference between frustration and confidence. For defensive shooters, that means loved ones who may not train every week could still handle their firearm effectively if they had to. That's a very real advantage that goes beyond numbers and enters the realm of safety and empowerment. Still, it's important to recognize that every new technology comes with questions. Some shooters worry about long-term durability. Will the fluid core hold up after years in storage? Others question how well it performs across different barrel lengths or in colder conditions. And let's be honest, traditionalists will always raise an eyebrow at anything that breaks from the classic formula of heavy lead moving slowly. Skepticism is natural, and in the firearms world, it usually takes years of use before something truly becomes trusted. Then there's the matter of cost. While the difference is small, just $1 more per box when you multiply that over thousands of rounds of practice, the numbers add up. For someone who shoots casually, that bump is trivial. For a competitive shooter burning through cases every month, it's worth calculating. The good news is that the cost gap isn't massive, and if demand grows, prices could settle even closer to standard loads. Innovation always starts at a slight premium, but this feels manageable rather than exclusionary. There's also the question of regulation and acceptance. Agencies and departments that purchase ammunition in bulk are notoriously cautious. Before this type of round becomes standard issue anywhere, it will need extensive testing, certification, and adoption across training academies. That process takes time. But the fact that military and law enforcement contracts are already in play suggests the ball is rolling. Civilian shooters are simply seeing the edge of that wave earlier, which makes this moment feel exciting, as though we're witnessing the start of a broader shift. The environmental aspect deserves another highlight. Non-lead ammunition isn't just a nice-to-have, it's becoming a necessity. Studies have shown the damage caused by lead residue in soil and water near shooting ranges and hunting grounds. Wildlife especially, birds are vulnerable to lead contamination when they ingest fragments left in the field. Transitioning to lead-free solutions isn't only about compliance with regulations, it's about sustainability. Shooters who care about protecting access to public lands should see this as part of keeping the tradition alive for future generations. With ammunition like this, you don't have to choose between performance and responsibility. Zooming out, I see this as part of a larger trend. Firearms themselves evolve slowly, with designs often lasting decades with minor tweaks. Ammunition, on the other hand, has room for innovation because it's consumable. You use it, you replace it, and you can experiment with what works best. A leap like synthetic fluid cores could open the door to even more creative designs in the future. Lighter loads, specialized defensive applications, and maybe even reduced reliance on scarce raw materials like lead. This is the kind of change that can ripple through the entire industry. The first time I picked up one of these rounds, I couldn't believe how light it felt. After seeing the velocity numbers and watching shooters' faces light up with excitement, that disbelief shifted into genuine enthusiasm. It feels like we're standing at the edge of something big, not just another minor tweak or rebranded hollow point. This is new, different, and impactful. It makes you want to grab a few boxes, hit the range, and see for yourself what all the buzz is about. And that's really the point. Shooting is about confidence control and trust in your gear. When you load up with something that feels this fresh and performs this well, it changes the way you look at your firearm. It adds excitement back into the range experience, and it sparks conversations about what's possible next. For me, that's worth every penny of that extra dollar per box. So here's where I land. This ammo is fast, light, accurate, safer for the environment, and it pushes the boundaries of what we thought handgun rounds could do. It's not perfect. No technology is, but it represents progress, and progress is what keeps this community alive and evolving. If this is the direction the industry is headed, I'm all in. Until next time, keep your powder dry and your eyes on the target.